6:05.
Perfect.
Bloomingdale Board of Education will be called to order at 6:05. We'll start by reading the Open Public Meetings Act. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, public notice of this meeting has been sent to the Star Ledger, Suburban Trends, all board members, all district schools, Bloomingdale Borough Hall, clerk of the Borough of Bloomingdale, and posted online at the district website. Copies of the agendas are available in paper form this evening and are posted on the Bloomingdale School District website. Can we please rise for the flag salute?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Alonso, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, certainly. Ms. Arabia,
Yes.
Ms. Greco,
Here.
Mrs. Hussein,
Here.
Mrs. Marcus, Mr. Olenschlager,
Present.
Mrs. Santana,
Here.
Mrs. Spencer,
Here.
Mrs. Wilson,
Here.
Mr. Caraballo.
Here. Can I have a motion for the approval of minutes?
President, I provided certain non-material edits to the board secretary.
So they would be passed as corrected.
Yeah.
We have a motion, a second. Any comments, extensions to the minutes? Hearing none. Can we get a roll call vote on that, please?
Ms. Arabia,
Yes.
Ms. Greco,
Yes.
Mrs. Hussein,
Yes.
Mrs. Marcus,
Yes.
Mr. Olenschlager,
Yes.
Mrs. Santana,
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer, Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Caraballo.
Yes. Okay. Carol, can you give the president's report?
Why don't you take this?
Technology. So the main thing that I would want to report on is that Saturday, March 26th, from 9 a.m. till noon, the board held part one of a retreat facilitated by Kathy Hellowa, the New Jersey School Boards Association Field Services Representative for Passaic County. Topics discussed, which were quite robustly discussed actually, included communication and trust among board members, and individual goals for board service were shared, all of them centered on supporting consistent improvement of educational achievement, district facilities, and educational leadership, and communication and trust between the board and the community. And that included the transparency on the website and getting as much information up there as possible in a timely fashion. And we talked a lot about the public comment portion of the public board meetings. There are differing roles between the Board of Ed and the public. And we do need to mediate the tension between comments on agenda items and other topics and specific questions that perhaps could be answered at the end of the comment session, or ways to address just specific questions rather than things that require more long-term discussion. And then we discussed the strategic plan, which is on tonight's agenda for approval. And we discussed facilities going forward. Various models were proposed, and they all require research on demographics, costs, and feasibility. So it was quite a productive session, and we're going to continue it.
Thanks. So at this point, I'd like to welcome Caitlin and Nicole, who are here from Walter T, to deliver our student liaison report. Caitlin, Nicole, it's all you.
NJHS Kids in Need fundraiser. For the past couple of weeks, the National Junior Honor Society here at WTB has been organizing a school-wide fundraiser to collect school supplies for the Kids in Need Foundation. As a whole, students and staff collected 791 school supplies total to donate. These supplies will be shipped directly to the Kids in Need Foundation headquarters, where they will then be distributed to underprivileged schools to supply them with the means students need to succeed. We are so proud of our schools who came together for the greater good and collected so many supplies.
Unity Through Community Dodgeball event. Organized by the Bloomingdale Municipal Drug Alliance, the Bloomingdale community was able to work together while playing dodgeball. Many different people from the community were involved, including the Bloomingdale Police, Firemen Council, PTA, and of course, the students of our Bloomingdale schools. This event was a very exciting and fun way to bring the community together, as well as promote drug-free lifestyle and making healthy choices for your own well-being.
On April 1st, Jamie Frasquet, a former Walter T. Bergen student, came to speak with our 8th graders along with the Bloomingdale Municipal Drug Alliance. She spoke of her life, including the wrong path she decided to follow and how drugs almost ended her life. Jamie was a star student at Walter T. Bergen, and she never thought that her life would one day be taken over by drugs. She fell in with the wrong group of people and wanted to fit in so badly that she began to take drugs and became addicted. However, Jamie was able to save herself. She found a way out of her addiction and has since then been 8 years clean. Jamie acted as a role model for the students and answered their many questions. She inspired our 8th graders to make conscious and careful decisions now and as they leave the school in the future.
The Big Air Bmx Show. Sponsored by the Bloomingdale PTA, this upcoming event is to encourage anti-bullying, being drug-free, and keeping a healthy lifestyle through a thrilling event that will take place outside. The bikers will be performing tricks on BMX bikes, as well as speak out about respect for others, anti-bullying, and most importantly, not letting bad choices get in the way of your dreams. This event will be held Monday, April 25th, 2022 at 1 p.m.
Honor roll in trimester 2. Throughout trimester 2, many students received high honor roll and honor roll. In honor roll in grade 5, 8 students received honor roll. In grade 6, there were 6 students. In grade 7, 15 students. In grade 8, 5 students.
For high honor roll, grade 5, 13 students, grade 6, 13 students, grade 7, 10 students, and grade 8, 15 students. And that's it.
Thank you, ladies. Sure. So again, the main reason everyone is here, we'd like to honor our Walter T. Bergen Most Valuable Bobcats for trimester 2. So I'd like to invite up Mr. Deeb, our principal here at Walter T. Presenting the awards this evening will be Mr. Caraballo. Back to the board.
Good evening, everybody. I'd first like to say thank you to the Bloomingdale Board of Education and Dr. Nicosia for supporting our students and our programs at Walter T. Bergen, and for inviting these students and their families here tonight to be recognized for a job well done. Someone asked me the other day, what is a most valuable Bobcat? So I thought maybe there wasn't full understanding of what that is. It's a way for us to recognize students who have done something outstanding in a trimester in one special area. As the girls mentioned, we had our trimester 2 honor roll announced recently, and some of our MVBs are on the honor roll, but some are not, yet they still did a really excellent job in a specific area. These students are nominated by their teachers, and then there's a panel of other teachers that read the nominations and make the selections at the end of the trimester. The categories that they can win are each of the core courses, math, social studies, science, ELA, but also our elective courses, music, art, world language, technology, physical education, and health. And our teachers have the freedom to nominate in other categories where they see students really setting the right example and putting together a great performance. Categories such as most improved, leadership, citizenship, school spirit. So you're going to hear some of those categories and the student winners called up here tonight. This has been a great program for our school. It's really helped to motivate students, keep some other students motivated. It's strengthened the bond between teachers and students as The most valuable Bobcats receive a bag that says Walter T. Bergen Middle School on it and a certificate from me. And on the certificate is the narrative of the nomination from their teacher, and the teacher signs the certificate as well. So it's had a lot of positive impacts for us here at the end of trimester 1 and trimester 2. And what it will do at the end of trimester 3, we will not have most valuable Bobcats. This will just transition into our end of the year academic awards, which take place every year. And this year on June 20th, if you want to mark your calendars. So without further ado, I will begin to call up the most valuable Bobcats to receive a certificate from the Board of Education and Mr. Caraballo. And I think that sometimes this is a photo op as well. So after I call up the 5th grade students, we'll take a minute to take their picture, and then they can be seated, and we'll do the same with 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. All right. So our 5th grade trimester 2 MVBs, Jenna Altahan, Science. Stay up there, Jenna, but you won't be by yourself for long, I promise. You can just stand over there. Diana Awadala, most valuable Bobcat standout student. Zach Bevers-Luce, most valuable Bobcat, most improved. Nasheen Chowdhury, math. Doesn't look like Nasheen made it tonight. Brady Cuoco, music. Adriana Earl, technology. Royce Estevez, leadership. Jaden Gaber, ELA. Isabella Loaiza, arts. Samantha Mecca, social studies. Ivan Puma, health. Those are our 5th grade trimester 2 MVB. All right, guys, great job. We're proud of you. Have a seat. For the 6th grade, art is Elul Akar. Sixth grade most improved, Samantha Alcantar. Sixth grade ELA, Christopher Costa. Sixth grade citizenship, Haley Cugini. Sixth grade citizenship, Mackenzie Hole. Sixth grade math, Mia Martinez. Sixth grade science, Isabella Marut. Sixth grade music, Cheyenne McMaster. Sixth grade health, Carter Beckford. Sixth grade citizenship, Gianna McMaster. Sixth grade most improved, Max Mendez. Sixth grade citizenship, Brianne O'Donnell. Sixth grade social studies, Gabby Riggio. And sixth grade social study, technology, I'm sorry, sixth grade technology, Sophia Villano. And you may have noticed there's a few citizenship students mentioned. Those students, the sixth grade teachers, noticed that they took charge, took initiative, leadership in a school-wide school spirit event during the second trimester. They were nominated by their sixth grade teachers, two of whom are here, Mrs. Rooney and Mrs. Oken. All right, thank you, sixth grade MVBs. I know. Yeah, okay. So, no, that's okay. Thank you, because I need to come to grips with my age and start wearing my glasses. I missed two fifth grade students and one sixth grade student. So I'll call them up individually. Going back to the fifth grade, also most improved, Braden Williams. And in the fifth grade, world language, Olivia Zutterman. For the sixth grade, my old eyes skipped the sixth grade world language MVB, Sophia Butera. My apologies. Yep. For the seventh grade, social studies, Jacob Bouchard. Seventh grade health, Neo Chakoyu. Seventh grade ELA, Annabella Cole. Seventh grade citizenship, Andrew Combs. Seventh grade most improved, Kirsten Cosgrove. Seventh grade science, Regina Escobar. Seventh grade art, Miguel Gonzalez. Seventh grade standout student, Stephen Luque. Seventh grade math, Frankie Piccolo. Seventh grade music, Jennifer Serrano Meneses. Seventh grade technology, Nico Stefanicus. Are there any seventh graders out there that I missed? Priscilla Lavandera. Oh, she might be the very last one. It was printed with the, yep. Thank you, Priscilla, for world language, seventh grade MVB. Is that it for the seventh grade? Thank you. Good job, guys. Have a seat. Last but not least, and my last chance to get this right tonight, our 8th grade MVBs for trimester 2, math, Emily Granisi. Music, Sadie Matthews. World language, Joey Hart Misa. Social studies, Nicole Murin. English language arts, Caitlin Orslani. Science, Aliana Perez. Health, Francesca Sanger. Art, Emily Van Letten. Technology, David Watroba. Calling any or all other 8th graders here tonight to the front of the room. Finally. He's actually a trimester 1. Great, thank you, 8th graders. Okay, thank you once again to the Board of Education and Dr. Nicosia for supporting the programs and our students and inviting everyone here tonight. Thank you, families, for coming, and thank you, students, for your outstanding job. We are very proud of all your accomplishments this year at Walter T. Bergen. Have a good night.
Want to take the remaining? Yeah.
Yeah, it still does. Yeah, my brother owns it now, but he still
Your section. That's good. I do have a minute.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. We were she was like this. When we went to the really. Yeah. Yes. But he just likes to come out. He just likes to go. Me and my brother owns it now. So he just goes and contact the mom's name.
Thank you.
Congrats.
I know.
All right, yeah, that's great. Let's see.
Very good. So carrying on, thank you, everyone. So as we've done the last few months, highlighting different portions for the public and for the board of our district, tonight, I'm going to let them go first, and then I'll continue on my regular report. So I'd like to invite up Ms. Francisco and Ms. Husser from Martha B. Day to present on our preschool program. As the board knows, we've spent a lot of time this year talking about our preschool expansion award, preschool expansion, how it's going this year, and then into the future. So I'd like to provide the board and the public a presentation. So.
Board. I first want to thank Dr. Nicosia for helping secure this grant and get this proposal going for our school. When you see what Ms. Francisco, who is our lead pre-K master teacher, so she goes in and coaches and helps make sure our program is running smoothly. when you see everything that's going on there, you'll be very impressed over a very short period of time. So thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Elise Francisco. I'm going to present a little bit about our preschool program that we have at Martha B. Day School. Right up here. There we go. Good. Okay. So just a little bit about the demographics. This is just for this year. Right now, we currently have 24 3-year-olds enrolled in the program and 27 4-year-olds enrolled in the program. Right now, we have 63% of the students that classify as white, 21% that classify as Hispanic or Latino. Multiple categories hit a 13%, and Black and African American students at a 2%. Now, we do want to show you that from the past that our multiple categories is also moving up, which is wonderful. And the Hispanic and Latino community as well is changing to the positive, to growing. So this is our first year timeline. You know, we started back in September where Dr. Nicosia applied for the preschool grant, and we were able to get it in September. In October 12th, we opened 2 classrooms and 1 classroom converted. So we have a total of 3 classrooms right now. In December, we finished our first study from our curriculum, which I'll speak about a little bit later on trees. January 18th, we opened the registration for the next school year. We'll talk a little bit more about the next steps later on. In February, we did a cute fashion show where we invited all the parents to the school, and they did a fashion show in our gym. In March, we built a community for the end of the building study in their different classrooms. And in April, this month, they started the recycling study. These are just some pictures I like to highlight with pictures and see what's going on in the classroom. So they're doing a lot of learning through play, which is developmentally appropriate for preschool. And they do whole group activities, small group activities, and one-on-one instruction with the 3 and 4-year-olds. This is our preschool team this year. The first picture on the left is Miss Casper. The second picture in the middle is Miss Vaccaro. She's also a preschool teacher. And the last picture on the right, that is Miss Bethon. She's actually doing large group right there in the building study. They're fantastic teachers. I just have to say that. So just going into a little bit of what they do, this is the social emotional component of the curriculum. So why do we have to teach social emotional skills? Preschool is the building foundation of lifelong learning for our Bloomingdale students. This is the first step before we get to kindergarten. They have 2 years now of schooling, which will help us with social emotional skills, which we know, given the pandemic, everything that's going on, this is going to increase their confidence, their feelings, the way they make friends, and avoid some of those behaviors later on. Teaching these skills will set them up for success in elementary years and beyond. And what are those skills? Self-regulation, making friends in school, following expectations of the classroom, engaging with adults, engaging with students, and expression of feelings. This is the curriculum that we currently have. It's called the Creative Curriculum. It's the 6th edition. So it's a very comprehensive curriculum. We have a lot of books, a lot of teaching guides for the teachers to follow. And they work on these skills, basically the social emotional skills we touched in the last slide, physical development for the students, language development, cognition development, literacy skills, math skills, social studies, science, arts, and technology skills. And we also have a PERT process. So these are the preschool intervention referral team gives teachers guidance on students with challenging behaviors or learning difficulties. So we try to address it in the school before it gets to the child study team. So we have a whole process of giving the teachers strategies. These are some of our celebrations. For the tree study, we had Dr. Nicosia come out and plant a tree in front of our school, and the students were outside, showed pictures of their trees. This is a clothing study. This was their fashion show. So we set up the gym, we had music, and the students walked down a red carpet and showed off their multicultural outfits or special outfits of choice. In the building study, like I said, they made their own communities in their classroom. It was a private celebration within each classroom, which was fun. Miss Casper had a lot of fun with that one. hold on, too fast. Okay, I just wanted to touch a little base on my role in the classroom. So I have two roles. I work in preschool and I also work in kindergarten. So for my preschool role, I'm the master teacher. I support the teachers on the implementation of the curriculum by having them reflect on their practice with coaching cycles. And I am the preschool intervention and referral specialist. So I do help with those strategies that they need in the classroom. I have about 13 years of experience in preschool from another district. So I use all those strategies, things I've done in the classroom and help them out. And my other role as a kindergarten coach is to help them with students that are not meeting with their expectations. So I give them intervention strategies and help out on the IRNS team.
And next steps, we're very excited. We're able to increase our pre-K classrooms. We're adding more classrooms, and we have a total of 6. So we are extremely excited for that. We've already almost filled all of them with pre-registration already. We have very eager people in the community who are very happy that this has been brought to Bloomingdale. And I have to be honest, as the building principal, I'm very happy because now we have students, as Ms. Francisco said, that if there is anything, we can jump on it now at 3 and 4, give the interventions they need and see them successfully increase moving up. I've already told my kindergarten team, next year, you're going to see a different group of kids because 45 of them are going to be, coming on up through going into 3s and 4s. So we're very excited for the next steps. We're, adding our playground outside. We're adding more coaches in. We're adding more materials to the students so that we can increase our lowest level of services to then build up through all the other grades.
And that is it. Do you guys have any questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you both.
Yes, I'm so excited. They have done a great job. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you both.
Okay, all right, that'd be good. Okay, thanks.
So carrying on with my report, a few items. So we do know spring break is upon us. So starting basically tomorrow is a half day, one session, minimal day, whatever term we like to use. We use many here in Bloomingdale, but spring break is upon us starting tomorrow and it runs the following week. Some other items that have taken, I had the pleasure of attending over in Butler Public Schools, their groundbreaking. I was kindly invited by their superintendent to attend the groundbreaking on their turf field, which Bloomingdale students, as they go into Butler High School, will have the benefit for. They held their groundbreaking ceremony last week. They plan to start construction. They started this week, I should say, and they plan to have it done hopefully by the end of September for use. And again, Bloomingdale students, along with Butler students, will have use of that field moving forward. I do want to recognize that tonight the board is considering for adoption our strategic plan. That's months worth of work on behalf of a lot of different stakeholders within the district. We started meeting back in October, November, December, January, and a lot of fine tuning on the part and a lot of input from a lot of different stakeholders, some with students in the district, some with children in the district, some with children that are not in the district, and taxpayers providing input. And I think we turned out a quality overall product that will guide decision-making in the district for the next 5 years. Turning towards the summer, because anytime we get to spring break, summer is the next major milestone on the school calendar. So we were proud to release our summer programming plans last week to parents. I highlighted this in the district newsletter and then released it signups last week. We're running 2 different types of summer programs this year. We're running an academic summer program, which really has a dual focus. It has a focus for students who need academic remediation due to the pandemic. It's a 4-week program during the month of July, but it's also for students that want a jump start. Where last year we only really targeted students who needed remediation. This year we're able to target both students who need remediation and students just want to jump start on the next grade. We're able to accommodate both. So that's a free of charge program. Registration information went out via school messenger last week. And then what we're very proud to do is continue expanding our summer programs. We are offering academy workshops on a variety of different topics. You can actually find them in the agenda because we're approving the teachers this evening. A lot of different ones. There's sports related. There's arts related with acrylics. There's music related. There's engineering. There's finance and planning. Just to name a few different topics. So those are all available that we are offering, all of which are free of charge to Bloomingdale residents throughout the summer. I would like to also acknowledge, as you'll see in the agenda for consideration tonight, we have reached an agreement with the Bloomingdale Education Association. I do want to acknowledge some individuals that were part of that team. I'd like to thank Ms. Hussein, Mr. Caraballo, Ms. Marcus for a period, Mrs. Greco, and then Mrs. Alonso as well, working behind the scenes, and then really who led the process for us. He couldn't be here tonight, he's thanks to a family matter, but Mr. Merlino, our attorney, did lead that process in negotiating. We have reached an agreement fairly quickly compared to others with the Bloomingdale Education Association, which covers our teachers and secretaries. So that really concludes my report tonight. Some notes for the board about the bulletin for consideration. There is an addendum with some standard business actions in terms of bus evacuation drills, field trip approvals, approval of a teacher mentor, and a new substitute teacher. I do want to make a note on GA9, which is the BEA agreement. Even though it was provided to the board in two separate documents, the BEA is technically the teachers and secretaries. You can think of them as one. You could staple them together and make the one document that you'll be approving tonight. They are not two separate bargaining agreements we enter into. There is one correction that I'd like to read in. Under GA3, it's Walter T. Bergen drills. Inadvertently, multiple drills were listed there. Just to make two corrections again on GA3, Walter T. Bergen's fire drills should be on 3/7/2022 at 1:55 p.m. And Walter T. Bergen's security drills, you could strike 3/17 and 3/29. Those were not held on those dates. While we did do testing of our security system on those dates, they don't fall under the classification of a security drill, so we could strike those off. And my last note of thanks is really on a personal level. I'd like to thank the board because this really does mark my 1-year anniversary in the district. It has been a very fast year. I was just reflecting back with my wife prior. It was just this time last year. I was on the phone agreeing to come to Bloomingdale on the acting basis. So I do want to thank you. It's been a wonderful year, a fast year. We've done a lot, and I felt very supported. So I do want to thank the board for that. And that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Garcia. Just want to point out one item. There was correspondence in the packets. Does anybody have any questions or comments on correspondence? No? No comments? All right, then seeing none, I'd like to open public comment on agenda items only, subject to the public comments that's in our rules on page 2. Can I get a motion to open public comment, subject to rules? Carol moved it. Liz seconded it. Can we move that by voice? All in favor? Aye. So public comment is open on agenda items only? No? Okay. Seeing no one wish to make public comment, thank you. Can we get a motion to close public comment? Can we move it by voice? Aye. Okay. I'd like to now move to committee reports. So let's can you start with your report?
Okay, the Personnel Policy and Community Relations Committee met on April 4. Respecting board policy, the committee reviewed and endorsed to the full board the adoption of a revised policy prescribing the procedure for roll call voting, which would implement the board's past practice and is on tonight's agenda for first reading. The committee also discussed, but has not yet recommended final action on revisions to policies concerning public comment at board meetings, board officers, and board standing committees. As to the last topic, however, the committee is recommending that the board defer the second reading of a revision to the board's current policy on board committees, pending this evening's board retreat, which is anticipated to address this topic. Respecting pending legislation, the committee reviewed and endorsed to the full board the adoption of 2 resolutions endorsing S724, establishing a 3-year state-funded reading pilot program, and A1271, authorizing 1 excused absence per school year for attendance at civic events by students in grades 6 through 12. These are presented on tonight's agenda for action. Respecting district matters, the committee reviewed and approved the superintendent's recommendations to modernize the district's mission statement and to authorize the personnel matters presented on tonight's agenda for action. Finally, the committee was apprised that the municipal government is considering the adoption of a zoning ordinance to permit cannabis retail establishments in the borough. The committee elected to defer action on this matter until such time as an ordinance is introduced for public hearing. The committee also met in special session on April 11 earlier this week to consider a zoning ordinance permitting cannabis retail establishments in the borough, which was introduced the next night after our committee meeting on April 5. And that was introduced for a public hearing on May 3. Because the public hearing precedes our next board meeting on May 4, the committee considered the ordinance and with the superintendent's recommendation, has itself recommended to the full board the adoption of a resolution opposing the enactment of the ordinance. And a proposed resolution will be presented under new business this evening, given timing. That completes my report unless there are any questions.
I just had a question. You discussed policy concerning about how the order of roll call and voting and also public comment. I didn't see anything with that in the packet. The only thing I have is that of all the only thing we had regarding policies was just because everything was a second reading.
So that I'm noticing that that's an error on my part.
Okay.
The committee did endorse a first reading of, and we could add it onto the addendum this evening.
Okay.
Mr. Jones, what policy number letter was that? Was policy?
Now you're testing
I'm
me.
looking up it myself.
Okay.
165,
Have it right.
167.
It was, yeah, this is my mistake. It's public engagement at board meetings with discussion, but it was policy 165, roll call voting.
We can discuss that later.
Yeah, nobody has the policy, right?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that is my mistake. I
So
do apologize
You
for
put
that.
on next agenda?
Sure, we could put it on the May
Yeah,
meeting if.
put on the May agenda.
Yeah.
That way everybody.
We have
has
2
a
meetings
chance.
in May, so it would be adopted.
Because it wasn't one sentence. So,
Correct.
yeah.
I apologize for that. That's my oversight.
Well, apparently I did because I didn't realize it wasn't on the agenda that I got. So,
I had a question about this presentation on the cannabis. I think the cannabis, it's maybe a new business, so it's not already in part of the packet, right?
No.
So-
no,
And will that be a vote in, like a final vote in new business?
if the answer is yes, if the board is prepared to take formal action, the answer is yes, there's going to be a resolution that'll be handed out and everybody given a chance to read it and discuss it. The reason why it's been presented is, quite frankly, the committee met Monday night and it took me until 7:15 Tuesday night to actually get a document to Mr. Nicosia. And that was only to have it screened first and before it went to the full board. And then, quite frankly, I spoke to Dr. Nicosia earlier today, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but basically it was instead of sending it out at 11 o'clock this morning and confusing everybody with something that they might not even see because everybody's working, that we would just bring it out tonight.
All right, thank you.
Correct. So I understand that the township committee has, or the municipal council has voted to send it to the planning board.
Has introduced it and referred it to the planning board
Right.
for its review and recommendation,
Right, which they have not voted.
because we don't meet until April 27th. And the public hearing is May 3.
All right. So this dialogue could be best discussed in the business. So
Yes,
We'll continue that.
Yeah.
in the business. We just want to introduce the concept.
right. I'm just giving my committee
Yeah.
report because this is
Yes.
what the committee did.
Yeah, so you're answering to your committee report. Any other questions regarding Mr. O'Shea's committee report?
I'll just note that the policy I mentioned about standing committees, which I think is 155, is not listed for second and final reading under GA5, based on the committee's recommendation, just so everybody understands.
Other comments, curriculum instruction? Technology, Carol?
So Nadia had a important business engagement and I chaired the committee. We reviewed the new 6 to 8 music curriculum, which is related to the New Jersey Student Learning Standards that was out in 2020, and we recommended approval. This fulfills one half of the required visual and performing arts program. This is the performing arts. And then we reviewed the 2020 comprehensive PE and health standards integration plan. Two professional, and so this is the plan to align those standards. So 2 professional development days will be devoted to updating current curriculum to align with those revised state standards, which were actually revised. And then Dr. Nicosia is sending out a parental survey to assess comfort level with individual instructional areas. In July, there will be curriculum writing, and it will be presented in August to the board. And then we discussed the instructional minutes proposal. That is the classroom, the amount of minutes in classroom time. The committee was briefed on efforts to standardize instructional time among grade levels and between schools. I think we're among grade levels.
Yes.
Yeah. And then we reviewed the technology plan, Exhibit A, and recommended approval, which is on the agenda for tonight. And this plan moves the district forward following the great infusion of technology we had during the past 2 years, thanks in some part to the pandemic and funding that came along with it. The committee was also briefed on CUSAC update and samples, and efforts are ongoing to address corrective actions required, especially related to curriculum.
Questions or comments on that report?
Reference to revised standards, will that be coming, does that have to come before the full board for approval?
It does.
Okay, which I guess will be at the May meeting.
For CUSAC,
No, it was for the health.
We're targeting likely August.
August.
Oh, okay.
But in light of announcements today that did not come from the Department of Education, but from the governor's office, with him ordering the department to review them, that timeline may be adjusted. But our preliminary timeline is August for that.
have to remember these standards were adopted 2 weeks ago.
So it's time to revise the standards again.
We're going to make a quick tech swap out. So this way the folks on Zoom could
Oh.
hear you.
Any other questions regarding that report? Seeing none, a report on communications, diversity and strategic planning, please.
Oh, skipping finance.
Oh, sorry, finance.
The Finance Committee met on April 11th. The matters that we discussed are currently confidential, so when those are no longer confidential, I will report on them.
Thank you. Now we go.
All right. The Communications, Diversity and Strategic Plan Committee met on the 11th. Dr. Nicosia began with an update from Policy and Finance concerning the placement of community relations and which committee. We will be discussing that later tonight as a whole board. He then presented the outline of the strategic plan, which we all have in our packets, that we'll be adopting tonight after our many months of working with the community and New Jersey school boards. He also stated at the time that he will be drafting the district goals directly from that plan and strongly recommended that the board create its goals with those, with the strategic plan in mind. And then we, talked briefly about the best, how we can help proceed, help move the district along to achieving those goals. And then finally, Dr. Nicosia gave us an update of the 2020 PE and health standards and his timeline, which now the governor has rendered moot at this point. But he basically, shared his plan to involve the community and all the faculty, that are, invested in that and creating the curriculum that works best for the students and the families in the district. And that's that.
Thank you. Any questions regarding that report? No, seeing none. Okay, then I'd like to then move forward to demonstration. So Owenschlager, have a comment before we move forward?
Nope, the only comment is the revisions previously noted to the security drills.
Right. If I could get clarification on that, because I was a little confused.
Sure.
By the amendment before I move it.
Sure.
So under GA3 for Walter T. Bergen School, there are 2 fire drills listed. Should there only be one
There should only be one
it would
that took
be-
place on 3/7/22.
at 1:55 PM?
Correct.
Okay. And for Walter T. Bergen, under the shelter in place, there should be only 1 or 2?
There should only be one, so we're striking 3/17 and 3/24.
Okay, because you mentioned 3:29. Is it 3:30 or 3:29? Because I thought I heard you say 3:29.
3:30 is the accurate,
Okay.
was listed as accurate.
Okay. So with that clarification, I will move the adoption under general administration of resolutions GA1 through GA12 inclusive as clarified.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
Hussein.
Suzanne.
Oh, no. Okay.
Any questions or comments on those motions? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Zarabia,
Yes.
Mrs. Greco,
Yes.
Mrs. Hussein,
Yes.
Mrs. Marcus.
Yes.
Mr. Olenschlager,
Yes.
Mrs. Santana,
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Caraballo.
Yes. Mr. Also, can you address the human resources section, please?
Yes. So I will move the adoption under human resources of resolutions HR1 through HR12 inclusive.
Any questions or comments on that motion? Seeing none, can we have a roll call on those motions, please?
Ms. Zarabia,
Yes.
Mrs. Greco,
Yes.
Mrs. Hussein,
Yes.
Mrs. Marcus,
Yes.
Mr. Olenschlager,
Yes.
Mrs. Santana, Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Caraballo.
Yes. Mrs. Zhang, can you address the academic program?
I move the adoption of AP1 to SS1.
A1 through 8.
Sorry, AP1 to AP2.
Great.
Oh, sorry, yes. AP1 to AP3.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on AP1 through AP3? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Zarabia,
Yes.
Mrs. Greco,
Yes.
Mrs. Hussein,
Yes.
Mrs. Marcus,
Yes.
Mr. Olenschlager,
Yes.
Mrs. Santana, Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Caraballo.
Yes.
And I move to adopt SS1.
The second,
Second.
questions or comments on SS1? Seeing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Zarabia,
Yes.
Mrs. Greco,
Yes.
Mrs. Hussein,
Yes.
Mrs. Marcus,
Yes.
Mr. Olenschlager,
Yes.
Mrs. Santana, Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Caraballo.
Yes. Mr. Riley, can you address the financials, please?
Move the adoption of FI1 through FI3.
Second.
Any questions or comments on FI1 through FI3?
For clarification, that second was by,
Mrs. Greco.
Santana.
Oh, which one? Sorry, Mrs. Greco.
Seeing no questions or comments on FI1 through FI3, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Zarabia,
Yes.
Mrs. Greco,
Yes.
Mrs. Hussein,
Yes.
Mrs. Marcus,
Yes.
Mr. Olenschlager,
Yes.
Mrs. Santana,
Yes.
Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Caraballo.
Yes. This time I'd like to open any comments on old business. Any comments on old business? We can move to new business then.
Lauren.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay. So
I hear we're talking about a lot of different resolutions that we're looking at as a board, which is great. But perhaps it's time for this board as a whole to have a discussion as to, with the development of the mirror trap, how this board is going to, what our position is, should that development, should the plan include a pilot program? Former board members that have served with us have brought that point up in the past to be addressed. And I think while it's important that we talk about, the cannabis resolution and different resolutions that we have, this is a resolution, this is a discussion that is needed, in my opinion, because it could have the potential to impact the district and cause financial harm to our school district. So I would really like to see the policy committee delve into this deeply. And I think we as a board need to take a position on this.
Any other comments on that topic?
Oh, I agree, because we lived through the last pilot program where nothing was in writing. Whatever it is, we need to have in writing our resolution and whatever agreement we come to with the town, because it was informal. If there were students that came into that, the pilot program doesn't give any, it leaves the school revenue out of the picture. And there was an informal agreement that if there were any students that moved into that development, which caused extraordinary expense to the district, the township would take care of it. They sort of did after about 3 years of our asking and seeking and campaigning, and when they did it, it didn't exactly. I mean, they did it through our capital budget. We'll pave the parking lot at Martha B. J, which wasn't where we spent the money out of our regular operating funds. And I think part of the problem was that nothing was in writing. And I would agree with Lauren that we absolutely have to have it in writing.
And I think just to go even further, I think it's critical for Dr. Nicosia to have a seat at the table when these discussions are happening, because I do feel, the discussion about the cannabis, I think the schools should have been involved. I think Dr. Nicosia, that's my opinion. I'm not speaking for the board. This is my personal opinion.
I would agree with you.
But I do believe that Dr. Nicosia, and I do not want this board to be behind the 8 ball when someone comes here to give a report from the mayor and council, with all due respect, that the pilot program is a done deal, because then it is too late. And you know what? We are here for the students and the families of this district. And my allegiance is to this district and protect us from any financial harm that we may incur. And at least let us have a seat at the table. Let Dr. Nicosia be a part of that conversation.
If I could just address Mrs. Greco's point, because the board's not going to be caught with its pants down this time. I'm not suggesting it was caught last time, but well, first of all, there's no pending application before the planning board with respect to the development of the property. Property was just a recent subdivision, which has added 7 acres to the 33-acre parcel that would be the subject of development, and now create a 40-acre parcel. No,
Like anti-subdivision.
well, let me just, I'll just explain. There's no pending application, and a pilot program is not within the purview of the planning board. It is solely within the jurisdiction of the mayor and council.
Right, absolutely.
And when I took office in January, and I don't want to go into any details here for obvious reasons, I briefed Dr. Nicosia quite extensively, starting in 1983, as I recall, so that he would have a full understanding of not only where we are, but how did we get here, and where it appears that the governing body may be headed, so that we, following something I learned from my service on the Board of Education years ago, which is to be forewarned is to be forearmed. And I, again, would just submit to you that Dr. Nicosia is up to speed and is engaged, directly engaged in this issue, as is Mr. Caraballo. And as am I, by virtue of the fact that I sit on the planning board. So we, I guess it's my way of saying we're on top of it. We're not behind the 8 ball. And when the issue gets teed up, that's when we'll have the opportunity, or we'll avail ourselves of the opportunity to participate. That's what happened here with the cannabis ordinance. It was only when the ordinance was introduced that there was something to react to. It so happened that the ordinance was introduced Tuesday night after the policy committee met Monday night. And that's of last week. That's why it.
Right, and I appreciate that, and I'm all about, us being proactive, and not having to be reactive to something that we find out too late, perhaps. So
Maybe that information could be shared with the entire board.
Right.
Not just
absolutely.
a few people, because I definitely don't have enough understanding.
Well, would
Right.
it be in the guise of being proactive, would it be possible for the policy committee to come up with a recommendation that the board does not support a pilot program that does not financially benefit the school district as well as the town? Would it be possible for the policy committee to put together?
Well,
Do you
I'll
wanna
suggest to
share
you
any-
that
in addition to.
this is a little premature in the sense that there's nothing on the table, nothing, in other words, this is a concept
But
right now, but there's nothing to respond to right now.
Well, not in response, you just say we object to the idea of a pilot program as it historically has stood, where the town is the only beneficiary and the school district is left out.
Well,
It doesn't have to be responsive.
Well, let me put it this way. I think it would probably benefit the board and the district better not to take shots in the wind, but to work in a more collaborative and conciliatory way.
Haven't they already talked about, haven't they had some sort of, as it was there, I know there's a couple board members, a couple of council members who don't support the pilot, and was that like a formal action they took, or was that just in general, like two or a couple are speaking out?
Well, let's
against
put it
it?
this way. If I'll ask Dr. Nicosia, if the planning board has had no discussion on it. If the mayor and council had discussion on it in public, I'm not aware of it. It's not to say it didn't happen, but are you aware of any consideration, any public consideration?
No,
Any
the
pilot?
mayor and council have not approached myself in my formal capacity to discuss any type of arrangement.
Do you think that it's possible to be proactive and also maybe not take shots in the wind, to just say to them, when this does come up, we would like, just being proactive and saying, like, we know this is in discussions behind the scenes. When it does happen, we want a seat at the table.
There have been communications.
Exactly. We know
There
there's
have been
been,
informal communications. And again, the board is not behind the curve or the 8 ball on this issue. If the
well, I think
if the
some of us
members-
are, because not
well-
all of us know about it. So obviously the whole board is not.
But if
Well-
I just heard Dr. Nicosia correctly, no one has approached you to have a discussion either way.
About an arrangement of,
But they're not gonna-
financial
they're not
discussion or
gonna
anything
approach
like
you, it's
that.
the other
no.
way
That's what
around.
I'm saying. I think that it'd be, do we have to make a whole statement and say, we're totally against it? No, but we could make a statement and say that when it does come up for discussion, that we want to be a part of that discussion.
I think,
Do you want to share the comments that we have with our mayor?
sure, the mayor did share with us that this will be a pilot program, most likely. He did in our meeting share with that, but anything further, it's not necessarily discussed aside from that.
Right, I mean, to Lauren's point, we want to be engaged with the mayor and council on this topic, and I agree with that. And we have begun conversations with them because we don't want to be caught off guard, kind of like we did with the cannabis. So we have begun conversations. We will continue to be engaged. We do have follow-up meetings with the mayor. These will continue to be topics To your point, they do need to be formalized.
Right.
I
It
think
needs
we
to be
did
in writing.
ourselves-
Something needs to be in writing.
Right, we did ourselves a disjustice last
Oh,
time,
yeah.
that they weren't formalized, so we really need to, as these conversations come to maturity, that we want to make sure that they're formalized and put into code and into order.
And nothing can happen downtown unless it is discussed publicly at a mayor and council meeting where there's an actual.
But I'm just
there's
saying,
formal
like,
action to be
you said the
taken.
mayor basically said it's gonna be a pilot program. I think we should be able to come out with our feelings about a pilot program. Whether, and in some ways it might be considered, adversarial, but we are against it in the way they're normally written.
So that's exactly the point. The conversations we're having with the mayor is, there's a lot of ways to configure the pilot program.
But why we should be able to say, we want to, if there is to be a pilot program, we would not support one unless the school district.
And that's the
Is
conversations we're
in
having.
line.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
we're talking about the configuration of the.
Yeah,
pilot
but we don't
program.
have to be necessarily decide what it is now, but just say that we would not support a pilot program unless the school district is taken into account.
Right, of
And
course.
just
So
come
if I
out
can
with
make
that.
a recommendation, I think this exact topic of new business could fall within the purview of two of our committees. It could fall within the Personnel Policy Committee. It could certainly fall within the Communications Committee and Strategic Plan as well. So my recommendation to the board is we send this topic to those committees for further discussion at our next meeting.
Finance.
It certainly could fall under finance. It certainly could fall under collection.
The key here is that we should do our due diligence before going public with any position. And because this is right now totally premature, because there's not even an application before the planning board. There's no
I agree.
contract in front of the
There
mayor
have
and
been
council.
studies, but some of the numbers that we're hearing from the studies do cause some alarm, because the Mirror Track is much larger than Avalon Bay. And as you heard, we can argue, we got, I won't say burnt, but we didn't do well with Avalon Bay.
Yeah, we got burned.
And the Mirror Track is probably 5 times in terms of student impact that Avalon Bay had. So we do need to keep an eye on it. So I agree
Yeah,
with Lauren.
right, yeah, right.
And remember
we want
that,
to keep an eye on it.
I sit on the planning board, so when an application is actually formalized, everybody's going to know about it.
But I think the point of what they're saying is not, they don't want to have an emergency meeting to address the issue. We want to
Right.
know what we want to
Exactly.
say before they even put this application on the table. We want to sit down and talk about it as a board
And that's
before the
what's
application
happening.
even hits.
Well,
Yeah,
quite
we don't want to
frankly, we
wait
could-
till the application hits and then have an emergency meeting.
Well, it's not going to happen that quickly, but we certainly can, I think we can discuss this in executive session, not tonight, but in an executive session as a matter of potential negotiations.
I like the idea that Dr. Nicosia,
Right.
floated, which is that the committees can look into it, because then we're at least starting somewhere, right? And, yes, there's not all you don't have everything, and I don't think we necessarily want to wait to have everything, but but it's good to have, just to get that started, and then maybe it can be a discussion in an executive session with the entire board, so that it's not people with missing pieces of the puzzle.
And there is information from school boards that we have about types of pilot
So, we have
programs.
general pilots, and I think we should ask the mayor and council if they have concepts or expectations regarding the pilot, if they could share those concepts. I mean, it doesn't have to be a formal ordinance, but I think they have some concept of expectations, how they want to take it for, and just to keep us abreast should those concepts change.
Sure. So I'd be very comfortable if everyone was in agreement, taking this to the committees, discuss out our position of how we want to approach
Yeah.
any communication, any financial, anything related to any possible resolution being passed. So my suggestion would be we discuss that all out at the committee level first. I agree, it'd probably be a matter of negotiations that could be held in executive session, and we can kind of use that as a way to brief back.
Yeah, my point is, I think we need to gather more information before we establish a position.
We should be very deliberate, because keep in mind that the Board of Education doesn't have a vote.
Right.
Right.
The vote is by
The
Borough
council.
Council.
Right.
Absolutely.
So we should be very deliberate and not engage in what may be perceived as some sort of adversarialness that is unwarranted, because there's nothing going on right now.
And I think they know that from your conversations with them. that
know
we
that-
are interested in this.
I
and
would
we
say
wanna
that's an
be-
accurate
Yeah.
take,
Yeah.
yeah, that they
So-
know that
Yeah, I'm
you're
not looking,
interested.
I'm not suggesting that it's adversarial. I'm
Get ahead of
suggesting
the
that
curve.
it's a cooperative, collaborative dealing between two groups, not adversarial at all. We're all one town.
So it's collaborative in that we need to get more information. I think it's a little premature to establish a position, not right to establish a position on it, other than let's get the information, share with the committees, and then we could, based on that information, decide how to take this forward.
I would just also suggest that, notwithstanding, you can make an argument that this topic falls in every committee we have. I don't think we should have committees, stepping on each other in terms of doing the due diligence. It seems to me that, I'm on the planning board. Let's send this to the policy committee to do the legwork and then have a discussion with the full board as to the information that is compiled both from the mayor and council, from school boards, from planning board, to the extent the planning board has any information to provide, so that everyone is operating from the same base of knowledge. The reason why this hasn't been brought up at a board meeting for now is because, again, it's premature. There's nothing to discuss yet. It's not to say we can't do the due diligence. We start our due diligence. Just to explain why, when I got on the board, I briefed Dr. Nicosia as to what's gone on in Bloomingdale since 1983. And because it's reflective, it's indicative of what's coming for, at least from the perspective of the planning board, in the coming year or two.
Just one final thing. I know you've had some, decent relationship with the mayor and council, since you've been here. My concern is how much were they able or willing to share with you if we did not have someone on the board here that is also on the planning committee?
Like, it's not really even the plan.
No, I'm just saying, like, he was able to give you lots of information. Is like, how much has the town been forthcoming without the background knowledge that Craig has because he's on the planning board and has been in, if it weren't for him, would we know as much?
That's a tough question to answer because
Okay.
they know we know.
Yeah,
So
that's it. Well,
that's where it's tough to
it. Are
answer.
they being as forthcoming as they would have been if we did not have someone who was able to,
Well,
belong?
I don't know. I really can't answer that because I haven't
I'll
had
make a
enough
comment
conversation.
because I was present in the conversations. We've had this experience, so we are asking the tough questions
Okay.
of the mayor. And I won't say he's uncomfortable, but we are asking the tough questions. I won't say he's on notice, but he knows that we're interested. That we have, to your point, we're vested in this situation, and to Lauren's point, and we want not so much get ahead of it, but at least stay abreast with them as they're moving. We want to be in lockstep with them.
And we actually talked to them while they were campaigning.
Right, but no, we talked to them last month. We continue to talk to them. So and this is probably one of the first items when we talk to them is how we doing, what's new on this topic. So to your point, I just wanted to maybe alert all the board members to that fact. And I'm gonna leave it up to you to whatever committees you want to bring it to, since they're based on your recommendations. Not to put you on the spot. but-
And you don't have
I
to
would ask
decide
you
that.
that we refer it to policy.
Well, why don't we let you think about this?
We'll let you take
Sure.
into consideration.
It's not up for action, so let me think about the best
Yeah.
course
Sure.
of action.
Understood.
Can I just ask the record to reflect that Mrs. Greco had to leave? the
Yeah,
meeting
so
at
Mrs. Greco is
7:15
excused.
At 7:15 p.m.
Any other new business?
Oh, I just wanted to share something. As many, some might not know, this is the holy month of Ramadan for Muslims around the world and Muslim Americans. And it's also kind of cool is it's at the same time as Passover. It's actually overlays with Passover and Easter. So Ramadan's going on now, and I just wanted to share.
So then we passed the park and all of a sudden she broke out in perfect English. We go to the park? She said, no, we already went to the park. She said, but now we can't go to the park because of this, of the way you're acting. And she's just clawing her. I'm like, be easy, sweetie. Don't hurt your mom.
nice is it's an educational opportunity for people to learn more about some of the really amazing cultures we have here in town, also in our schools. And I was going to just do a flyer to December 4th.
What day was it? I'm sorry.
Oh, so it's Thursday, April 21st at 7 p.m.
April 21st.
at Borough Hall.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned we were under old business. Did we go to new business?
Yes.
We finished
Yes.
old
We
business?
were- We've been in new business.
We've been in new
fine.
business because there was, when I looked around and seen no
There
old
was no
business,
old
and
Okay.
business, no.
then Laura brought up
So,
arguably new business.
all right, so to follow up on what I had sort of mentioned earlier, the borough has introduced ordinance 6-2022, which would permit cannabis retail establishments to operate in the borough's B1 zone.
Isn't this part of the planning board report?
No, because
New
it
business is
hasn't-
technically first.
Yeah, and
No.
I mean, you can add to it.
planning board hasn't just got this.
I know
Last week.
all about it.
So the ordinance, we discussed it in the policy committee and came to a unanimous recommendation with the superintendent to prepare a resolution to oppose the adoption of the ordinance. If you want to hand that out. This,
Yeah, everyone should. There's enough, Mike. I didn't divide them equally. I'm sure.
just for the benefit of people listening on Zoom, this wasn't
We're good.
available. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So the ordinance would allow cannabis retail establishments as a conditional use in the borough's B1 zone. Borough's B1 zone basically is Hamburg Turnpike, roughly from Glenwald Avenue west to the border with Butler at Mockapin Road and up Mockapin Road, roughly to vicinity of the Salvation Army camp. Unlike a permitted use in which someone could just go to the zoning officer and get a permit and go into business, conditional use means that the applicant would have to file an application with the Borough Planning Board and demonstrate satisfaction of the conditions that are set forth in this ordinance in order to be granted permission to open up one of these stores. So cannabis retail is retail sale of marijuana. The ordinance has a 500-foot buffer zone provision for schools and also for something called recreational use, although the ordinance doesn't define it, and public parks. So the committee noted that first of all, there doesn't appear to be any limitation on the number of establishments that can be operated in the B1 zone. Doesn't appear to be any limitation on how close one establishment can open from another establishment. It doesn't appear that it was considered that there are bus stops and walking routes in this area where kids would be present, and that there's an inconsistency because the borough has, years ago, we put on the books a 1,000-foot drug and alcohol-free zone ordinance, which provides for enhanced penalties if someone is pulled over for, is cited criminally for engaging in an impermissible drug or alcohol use, such as drunk driving. If that occurs within that 1,000-foot zone, it can lead to an enhanced set of penalties. So I prepared a form of resolution, which I'll read only because the people listening on Zoom don't have the benefit of this. So the ordinance, basically, the resolution would provide that whereas throughout its history, the Borough of Bloomingdale has enacted municipal laws prohibiting or penalizing conduct deemed to pose an unacceptable degree of risk of harm to its children, including but not limited to Borough Code Section 3.9, prohibiting possession and use of tobacco by minors, Borough Code Section 3.10, prohibiting smoking in public places, including recreational facilities owned or leased by the borough, and Borough Code Section 3.11, establishing 1,000 square foot drug and alcohol-free zones. And whereas Borough Ordinance number 6-2022 has been introduced for the purpose of permitting cannabis retail establishments to operate in the borough's B1 zone. And whereas the Bloomingdale Board of Education is concerned that the operation of cannabis retail establishments in the borough may pose an unacceptable degree of risk of harm to children educated in the Bloomingdale School District. And whereas the board observes that some children educated in the district attend the Samuel R. Donald Elementary School, which is located immediately adjacent to the zone at the intersection of Hamburg Turnpike and Glenwold Avenue. Whereas the board further observes that some children educated in the district or the neighboring Butler School District utilize bus stops or walking routes that are located within or which traverse the zone. And whereas the board is particularly concerned that the ordinance may pose an unintended yet unacceptable degree of risk of harm to these children in the following respects. One is that the ordinance does not set forth a 1,000 square foot buffer zone from schools so as to be consistent with the borough's existing 1,000 square foot drug and alcohol free zones pursuant to Borough Code Section 3.11. And secondly, the ordinance does not set forth any limitation on the number, proximity to each other, or proximity to bus stops and walking routes of any cannabis retail establishments that may be permitted to operate in the zone. And whereas the superintendent of schools shares the board's stated concerns and recommends the adoption of this resolution, now therefore be it resolved that the Bloomingdale Board of Education hereby respectfully expresses its opposition to the enactment of Borough Ordinance number 6-2022 into law and requests that the board secretary transmit a certified copy of this resolution to the governing body and planning board of the Borough of Bloomingdale for their consideration. So that's the sum and substance of.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this.
So
They
do we
want-
need to make a motion in
Oh,
a second
sorry.
so we can have discussion on this.
Correct.
Okay.
So Mr. Onshaker is offering motion.
I'll offer that.
GA 13 would be the unless GA 13, yes.
So is there a second?
Second.
So Alexis is the second. So Mr. Ryder, continue with your question. Thank you.
So I just want to make sure, basically somebody's asking for a special permit in Bloomingdale to put in a cannabis shop in which they'll sell
That's
marijuana.
not what this
No.
resolution is about.
No. It's not a special permit. The ordinance
It
would
will
amend.
That'll allow it.
The ordinance would amend the borough's zoning code to permit the retail sale of marijuana in the B1 zone, i.e. along Hamburg Turnpike and up Montague Road, the lower portion of Montague Road, based on an application that would have to be approved by the Borough Planning Board because it would be a conditional use. So the applicant would have to satisfy the conditions that are set forth in the ordinance for approval of that use. And the ordinance has, I wasn't going to go into the details, I'm not going to, but just.
Ms. Marcus, do you have any comments on it since you also?
Well, it sort of preempted my entire planning board report, but I think that the apparently the the municipal council is in favor of this. Presumably they see dollar signs. And I don't know that, I know that the planning board has tried to restrict it as much as possible, knowing that it was their, they work under the municipal council and they have to craft an ordinance. So they tried to restrict it. They will be trying to restrict it as much as possible so that downtown, the new Bloomingdale Center District, new B1, will not allow retail or micro cultivation, but it will be up towards Star Macapin. I think there's one site or something that.
Just to clarify, it wasn't the planning board, it was the ordinance review committee that was tasked with preparing this ordinance. And the B1 zone, the central business district is a separate zone from B1. Central business district is what we would call Main Street. That is not an issue here. There's an issue here is Hamburg Turnpike, which is from Glenwold Avenue, Westman.
Mr. Chair, to clarify, this ordinance then would allow people to submit applications to the
Yes.
planning board then.
To the planning board.
Just for everyone's
In
clarity.
that area, not Center City. Center Town. It's called Center.
Correct, to sell
District.
cannabis. Yes.
Recreation.
Non-hallucinogenic
Ordinance, the
marijuana.
existing ordinance that, the 1,000 square foot buffer zone, right? Which is with the board's existing, so 1,000 square foot growing alcohol free zone. So is this trying to amend that to make it 500 or
No,
is it?
No, it
It's a violation of that, I don't know.
Well, it's
no,
irrelevant.
it's not,
It's
it's neither.
parallel.
It's neither. What it's saying is that by, it would authorize this conditional use. But one of the conditions is you can't engage it in it within 500 feet of a school, a recreation use, or a public park. Okay. What was observed by the committee is, well, wait a second. You can't, we have 1,000-foot drug and alcohol-free zone around our schools, and yet this ordinance would allow somebody to open a retail marijuana shop 501 feet from the Samuel R. Donald School.
It's medical marijuana, right?
No,
No,
it's
it's
recreational.
It's retail, recreational.
So it's what you're saying is basically the conditional approval, the
Yeah.
conditional aspect. It's gonna make it 500, not change the ordinance, but it's gonna.
Not going to change the alcohol,
Right.
but it will.
But for this specific
Right,
thing, it's gonna be
exactly.
500 and it's gonna be under the
Exactly.
1,000 that we already have.
Well, the problem is it's going to be inconsistent with.
It's, that's what we're arguing. It's not consistent.
Yeah.
It's
It's
parallel.
not consistent.
Yeah, I just wanted, okay, so I understand
Yeah.
that.
So is the only reason, just because we're on the same topic before we move on, is the main reason, so if it was 1,000 feet, they amended that, right? And it was 1,000 feet and it was
No.
consistent.
No, the 1,000 feet has to do with alcohol. and-
I know, I'm just
But
asking.
this is just a separate subject. You
I
can,
know where you're going.
And
Go
I'm
ahead.
saying is the policy committee still against it if they adhered to the 1,000?
I'll defer to the policy chair.
Based on the discussion that we had, my understanding is yes.
You're still opposed to
We're
it,
still
even if they
opposed to
adhere to the 1,000?
Yes.
And is it because of the
So we really have
second
no
point of the
recourse
no
at
use
this
of the
point.
number, right?
Well, I think it's also, as I said, I think it's the third paragraph of the resolution, which is that is the unacceptable degree of risk of harm to children.
Well, that, in our conversation, I saw three deficiencies. One was 1,000 foot was inconsistent. Two was the number of, it didn't limit the number of stores or applicants you can have in that given area. And three, that given area, you have students walking, you're getting off a bus and walking to their homes. That didn't seem to be consistent with the mindset that we've had over the last couple of years of trying to educate students to be responsible. And I don't know, could this resolution influence the planning board? Do you think if they haven't finalized their ordinance, could a resolution like this help them maybe make it a little bit stronger or firmer or more consistent?
we're trying to influence the township.
Well, the planning board has to make a recommendation back to the mayor and council. And that's what the planning board will do at its meeting on April 27th.
Do you think this would support some of the comments we've heard tonight?
Sure.
I have a question just about, so I know Bloomingdale has a liquor store, right? And I think more than one liquor store, right?
Yeah.
And it's
At least three.
Right?
People walk
So-
past that too.
And so like, so for, let's say liquor, this 1,000 foot, does that, I know it's a different subject, but I think it's relevant. So let's say some of the establishments have liquor licenses, does that apply to them as well, or does this? board?
Liquor licenses are issued by the state.
Okay.
And there are state regulations that restrict how many licenses each community can have and that they can't be within a certain distance.
Okay.
Okay. Some of the deficiencies we found with this ordinance are comparable to that. Okay. But the 1,000 foot buffer zone has nothing to do with liquor licensing. It has to do with somebody, quite frankly, engaging in, being cited criminally for, drunk driving or being pulled over and found to be in possession of a controlled dangerous substance. And this ordinance, what that ordinance did was it actually created an official map that could be used as evidence in a municipal court proceeding, for example, that as evidence that somebody had, could be subject to heightened penalties because of if convicted for example, possession of a CDS. It has nothing to do with liquor licenses.
But to answer your question, that's my knowledge. I don't know any, well, wait a minute, the one there by the IGA, would that be within 1,000 feet?
What?
Of the liquor store there?
Oh, the liquor
It's on
store.
the far side.
It has nothing to do with
It doesn't have anything.
to do with a liquor store.
I know, but to answer her question, that's the closest liquor store I would think to any school, the one there by the IGA.
But that's sales and that's,
Well, there may be a liquor license at the old JR's, which is. on
It's
Hamburg
not
Turnpike.
active right now. So I would think the next closest one is that's active.
Yeah. And that doesn't change.
Yeah.
Does this
Yeah.
have to be voted on?
I'm only pointing to something that's in place already, just to point at like as a precedent that's been set by something else.
Right.
So it's not, that's why I'm asking these questions.
and that's pretty much what this resolution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because again, with liquor licenses, there's a number, and but with alcohol sales, it's like an actual store that really sells like a retailer, sells
Right.
alcohol. There is no ordinance, there's no limit between how they qualify.
There is under,
There is, okay.
well,
No,
Well,
no,
no,
alcohol,
no,
not
no.
alcohol sales,
You know,
alcohol
That's the
use.
consumption. That's the problem. It's like
Consumption.
you go to the liquor store, you buy your bottle of
So
liquor.
store
You can be
convenience is
arrested
cool.
for drinking in public, whereas you
Right.
can't be arrested for smoking in public.
But let's say a liquor store can
Yeah.
actually be close within.
Yeah,
because it's just
Okay.
sales.
So what we don't want with the marijuana retailer, we're talking about retailing, right?
Yeah.
Not just smoking or all that, but retailing.
Right.
That should not be within 1,000 feet of a school.
Right.
Well, and my question is, evidence has shown that alcohol has actually been more, both are detrimental. Like, I don't think anybody's saying either are detrimental, especially if you're developing mind, right? But alcohol has been shown to be much more lethal. It's been shown to, overall, it's been shown to be much more prevalent in cases of domestic violence. So I just sometimes wonder why alcohol is given like more leeway. That,
I
okay,
think
well.
More of the problem
Okay,
is that. you're
that's-
talking-
Yeah.
you're
This is
talking
nothing
like-
that's
yeah.
relevant.
We're doing
right
Glen
now.
Wild Lab up there. If you realize where the kids get dropped off from school, they walk down Glen
Yeah.
Wild, they walk over to Quick Check, and that's that whole area there and then into Butler. So I think I would absolutely support this because again, you're saying that if there are stores that are allowed to be there because they're just outside 500 feet. That is one of the main arteries for
Right.
any of the kids who are walking by themselves without their parents. It's from there to Quick Check to Butler. And that is the biggest, that's where you're gonna have the most.
And we all know
Kids
what's
on their
going
own.
on, and we all know what's going on with that thing in town.
You
That's
know,
there
so-
already.
Yeah.
Nadia, I'd love to have a discussion with you about the wisdom of
Yeah, but not
how
now.
alcohol
Yeah.
sold, but that's not
I'm
what
in
we're here
favor
for
of that.
tonight.
Right.
What we're here for tonight was simply that the Borough Council has introduced this ordinance. We don't meet until the day after the public hearing on it. So, and I quite frankly didn't think that the board would be interested in calling a special meeting to deal with this. So that's why we called a special committee meeting, why I tried to get something in writing within 24 hours, and we tried to roll it out tonight so that the board could take a position, whatever that position is.
We appreciate your efforts.
This is what the committee has determined is I think the committee is against the ordinance. And it has, in addition to it, it has these deficiencies where arguably, even if these deficiencies were cured, you can put lipstick on a pig, it's still a pig. And I think that's ultimately the problem here.
I have a past of working on marijuana and environmental prevention of youth. So that's the reason I'm asking this question for my information and just have context of, of making this decision. And for example, you mentioned the students walking unsupervised. One of the issues with one of the things with environmental prevention is that people buy marijuana and they give it to you. Like I worked in a community where there was a high amount of marijuana use by youth in a state like California, where it was recreationally and medically allowed. So, so obviously to your point, that's another concern, that it's not just the kids, maybe the kids, okay, well, the kids they're not old enough, they don't have the whatever to get it, but there are adults that will buy marijuana, give it to the kids or sell it to the kids. So I just want to raise that concern as well, along with what you raised. And the only thing I know we're not going to solve the whole alcohol thing. I just want to present that as another substance that is quite dangerous for children, but it's kind of allowed. So.
Notwithstanding that I brought this forward, I'm going to call the question because.
Please,
we have
we know we have another
Second,
meeting.
we go to
somebody waiting.
based on Robert's, we go to roll call.
Okay.
Did we already had a second?
Yes.
We had a motion and
Motion
second.
second.
Yeah, but then we had a call to order.
So you called to, is there a
I-
second?
yeah,
on
I called the
order?
question.
Carol,
Called
did
the
you
question.
Second,
Call
let's
the
vote.
question? Okay, so
Yeah, it was Olenschlager Wilson on the original motion to approve GA13.
Ms. Rabia,
Yes.
Mrs. Greco left, Mrs. Hussein, Mrs. Marcus,
Yes.
Mr. Olenschlager,
Yes.
Mrs. Santana, Mrs. Spencer,
Yes.
Mrs. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Caraballo.
yes,
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
okay. Moving on to liaison reports. Butler Board of Education.
Oh, sorry, that's me.
Yeah, you're the Butler
Dr.
Board of Education.
Nicosia already spoke about the groundbreaking ceremony for the field. And then just two quick other things, if anybody's interested, the Butler Bulldog Education Association is like doing some fundraisers. May 2nd, they're having a golf outing at Ramsey Country Club. And then May 7th, they're having a night at the races, which I guess is like the Kentucky Derby. So it's like, running, you can place bets and stuff there. And I think that's going to be at the night of Columbus,
What was the day of the golf outing?
May 2nd.
May 2nd, and the other one, the second one?
The night at the races is May 7th.
Oh, May 7th, okay.
Any questions on that report? Any further questions? Now seeing none, do you have any update from Mayor and Council?
No update this time.
No, we're still potentially meeting with the mayor at the end of this month. This is a general comment. New Jersey School Boards,
I don't have anything.
okay, just kind of fill that in. The annual delegate assembly is May 14th. People can register, the delegates should register, and anyone who wants can register as a non-voting participant.
Okay.
If Alexis, you're the representative, right?
So she would
she could-
register as the delegate, and
and
you
she
could
could vote.
register, and she could vote, and you could register as the alternate, and should she be absent that day, then you would be the voting delegate. Okay. St. County School Boards, this is
There will be an upcoming meeting. I don't have the exact date.
it's May 2nd,
May 2nd.
Monday,
I'll
May
be attending
2nd.
that, so, but I don't have the other updates.
Okay. Plan committee,
Well, most of my report was preempted. As far as the mere property development that's several months away, they have done the anti-subdivision. They've taken the voted to incorporate these additional acreage into the township, into the Tilcon land, and then it's township land.
Into the piece that would be the subject of the affordable housing development.
Right, and then the
create a
next
larger
thing
buffer zone.
is to take 13 acres that will be a buffer zone out of that thing. And then, so all of that, there's 45-day periods. It's going to be a while before the next step, which has to be whether there are proposals to buy it. and that's down the road. Oh, it's not, that it doesn't mean we shouldn't worry about it, but there's nothing really to react to right now. That's it.
Thank you. PTA?
Yeah, we're having a meeting tomorrow, just a quick update, they're just having a fundraiser, tribute fundraiser May 20th in Ottawa. And they just actually opened, they have a store, in case you're on the website, and they added some really awesome gear, like Bloomingdale sweatpants, flannel, pajamas, sweatshirts, really cute stuff, tie-dye stuff. Definitely, I encourage people to check out.
he's not
That's
doing
Bloomingdale,
this.
some Bloomingdale pride. That's it.
Any questions or comments? Thank you. Recreation?
So the Easter egg hunt is going to be April 16th, which is Saturday, and it's up to 4th grade. Bless you. Spring is going to start the men's softball league. It's going to start the end of April. Rolling Rascals is going to start again, but the start date is pending. Bloomingdale Day Camp registration is open. There's a 5-day and a 3-day option. And I think that's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments on that one? No?
Is the day camp going to be at McKemus, or is that the Bloomingdale
Oh,
one? It
no,
used
no.
to be here.
Right, it
so-
used to be here, but I think because of, stuff
Our
that's
stuff.
going on at Walter T, it's going to be held at Martha B Day this year.
Okay, I was just wondering with all the activities here, if they had to get a new. home.
Yeah.
Still keeping in the family.
Yes, I worked with them on that. So
Okay, good. Any other questions on recreation? Now, seniors, real quick, the next meeting is going to be April 25th. I'll attend that. Some other quick comments. On March 30th, I attended Day on the Hill, which I met with a half a dozen assembly people, federal level, like Mikey Sherrill and other legislator. On April 6th, I attended the resolution subcommittee, which supports the May 14th Delegate Assembly. And just to make all the members aware, on June 10th, the annual School Public Relations Program is available. If anybody wants to participate on the Jersey School Board's website. That completes my report. At this time, I would like to have a motion to open second public comment, subject to the rules on page 2. Can I get a motion?
Second.
Can we move that all by voice, please? All in
Aye.
favor? Thank you. Second public comment is open. Does anyone want to make public comment? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to have a motion to close second public comment.
So, second.
Okay, can we move that by voice, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So public is closed. At this point, we're going to be going into our retreat. You're welcome to stay.
How about if I can make a request for a 5-minute break, shall we?
Sounds good.
Thank you.